everyone, Oxnard. My name is Elibet Valencia. I am here with the newest council member from the city of Oxnard, Dorina Padilla.
Hello everyone, like was mentioned, my name is Dorina Padilla. I'm the newest elected city council member to the city of Oxnard. I am lucky to say that I grew up in the city of Oxnard since the age of, since I was a toddler. Grew up here. My family's just been here for several years, and I'm happy to be here serving my community. I went through the public school system, attended Channel Islands High School. Once I graduated from Channel Islands, I was lucky enough to complete my undergraduate studies at UCLA. Once at UCLA, I had the opportunity to partake in several community-based organizations, which kind of led me into the direction of education. I am currently working within the field of education. I work for Cal Lutheran University with the Upward Bound program. It's a federally funded program that is designed to get first-generation low-income students into college. So, and since it is federally funded program, I do have some knowledge with respects to the way that federal and or state funds are given to some sort of entity and the level of accountability that those funds have to, we have to provide in order to make sure that those funds are being used in a very honest and efficient and accountable way. So that's a little bit with respects to where I grew up and also what I'm doing currently within my professional role or job.
Okay, so here's a collection of questions collected from students in the area, high school and college, and community members. Which neighborhood did you grow up in?
I grew up in South Oxnard, so I went to school within the Gisler community. I attended R.J. Frank Junior High, but I grew up within the South End. I was within about 8-minute walk to Channel Islands High School.
Okay.
And from the college, actually. So I used to ride my bike. I remember one summer I took a class, and I actually used to ride my bike from my house to go take a summer class at Oxnard College.
Thank you. Next question. May you tell us some of your history in community activism, give us some examples of some funny stories?
As far as my history with community activism, I am a fairly recent graduate. I graduated in 2010, so as far as activist-centered groups, I haven't had too much experience, but I've had more experience within a broad range of the community. So with respects to, I used to go and volunteer at a free clinic in Venice and in Westwood, so I got the ability to interact with low-income individuals who come to these free clinics, and I actually was able to provide them with additional information about some possible resources that they can do. I, again, was also very much involved in tutoring. I tutored while I was UCLA for the Watts program, so they actually bused in a group of students from the Watts and William Meade area, and we used to tutor them on a one-on-one basis. I got a little bit involved with, also as an undergraduate, with some issues dealing with public health. I actually did a small research kind of innovative project on, whether implementing a bus line within the city of Los Angeles. So again, I haven't been involved too much in a particular group that deals specifically with activist activity, but I have been fairly involved within the community on a more broad scale. And then I currently work with students from our community within the field of education and making sure that there's a level of knowledge and resources with respect to the college going process.
Thank you. That really does answer our question.
Yeah.
Next question. What prompted you to become involved in government, and was there a moment when it dawned on you?
So I think that the thing that really I believe that in my heart I have an intrinsic need or yearning to help individuals, help my community. So I think that in itself contributed to my decision to run for office. But I actually was the proposition was brought to me from two counselors that I had in high school, that they proposed that I actually ran with a cohort of 4 other individuals. There was another individual running for city council, Manuel Vasquez, who is running in this upcoming election. I ran with Vianney Lopez. She was running for the Port Hueneme School District. Cedro Lagunas who was running for the Oxnard School District, and then Sylvia Lozamo, who was running for the Oxnard Union High School Board. So we ran as a cohort, and they kind of solicited my attention, basically. They said there's a great opportunity, an opportunity for you to make a big difference within your community. So I told them think about it, because it is a big commitment. It's a big step. And then I went home and I actually read the DA report that was published, I believe, in 2010, with respect to some of the investigations that they had done about the city of Oxnard, and it really did. I think that was the point where I decided I wanted to go for it. I wanted to make sure that whatever decision was made at the administrative level within the city was a decision that was for the benefit of the citizens. It was, again, I come from a program that we are held accountable for every cent that we spend that is given to us. And a lot of the reports stated that there were some major deficiencies in record keeping, which again, I think in my mind that if you're dealing with federal or state funds, whether they come from your own city or from other cities, it is your responsibility to make sure that you spend those funds in a very, very honest and citizen-oriented way. So I think that after reading the DA report, it really did make me want to make a change and make a difference and contribute to the forward progress of the city.
Thank you. How will you share your educational experience with the K through 12 and the community colleges?
I think that my educational experience, I think that I am, young enough for them to relate to me, even at the high school level and at the college level. So just being within my position, I think in itself inspires a lot of individuals that are younger to kind of not follow my path, but try to, or to understand that it is possible. So that in itself, I think, contributes a lot. But I'm always, I'm always telling my students, talking to my students about the opportunities that there are out there for them because of my own experience and because of what I've seen out in the world. So I think making sure that I myself try to emulate what I preach. So there's always the saying, practice what you preach. So I always try to practice what I preach. So if I tell my students that they need to go out and really take advantage of the opportunities that are put forth on them, then I myself as an individual have to make sure that if there is ever an opportunity that I can go ahead and take advantage, that I myself make that decision to go forth with that try to take advantage of the opportunity. And then also I'm a firm believer that reaching out to individuals is very important. I'm not, there's individuals who go and get their education but never disseminate what they've learned or the knowledge that they've acquired to their community. But I think that's one of the big reasons why you go and get educated, so you can come back to wherever you grew up, and make sure that other individuals understand what it is that you learned and what it is that's outside of what their realm or scope of knowledge is. So just outreach and living what it is that I try to promote amongst my students and amongst the community.
Is there some specific examples for how you intend to outreach?
Well, again, I believe that outreaching, it's as simple as making sure that I say hello to a small kid in the grocery store, or if I get an invitation, I'm very keen on making sure that if I get an invitation to a community event, especially if it involves young students or young individuals, I make it a point to try to make it to those events. For example, I myself used to coach a girls' 5th and 6th grade basketball team, but I love sports and athletics, but it's not necessarily that I wanted to coach them so that they could become better basketball players. I think I was doing it because I felt that there's an importance in being part of a team and group activity. You build a sense of work ethic. I could, as a coach, advise them with respect to the college going process, the importance of education and things of that nature. So outreach, I think, is an everyday thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be an initiative that I have set forth, in the next 10 years I'm going to do this and this and this. I think it's just going out into the community and getting your message heard. Whenever there's opportunity for a formal way of doing that, then great. If not, on an everyday basis, hola señora, ¿cómo está? Sabe que I have this program for your son or daughter with respects to the college going process. And you'd be surprised how receptive people are with a simple hello. So,
That's true. Okay. Would you be selective with mobile vendors?
would I be selective with mobile vendors? So any type of vendors of items, vendors of food, or
Any type of vendor that goes from location to location on wheels.
Well, I think in itself, I think there's laws and restrictions put on those type of vendors for the same reason, because there does come a time where, as a city or as a county, we have to make sure that whatever's being sold out to the public is for the benefit of the citizens and the aesthetics of the city in general. So I think in itself that question deems there has to be some sort of restriction put on any type of vendor, whether it be food. And I know that at the county level there are some restrictions with respects to where vendors can be, what type of items they can sell, and things of that nature.
Do you feel there should be a difference between the mobile vendors and station vendors?
Brick and mortar vendors?
Saying about the hours that they can operate versus one and the other one.
Well, I think that there needs to be a level of equal treatment amongst both groups. So there shouldn't be any additional treatment given to a mobile vendor than there is to a brick and mortar. It should kind of be a level playing field. And as a city, you have to think of the subject on a very broad and kind of as an outsider looking in. So me as a business owner, for example, if there's not any type of restrictions put on local vendors, why would I have the incentive to open up a brick and mortar business in Oxnard if I could just simply, purchase a mobile facility at a much lower cost than it costs to be a brick and mortar restaurant? So again, I think there needs to be a level of equitability and the type of restrictions that are put on both entities to make sure that there is an incentive for both individuals to make a living off of whether it be a brick or mortar or whether it be a mobile. So.
How would you explain the difference between these two words, a right and a privilege, to a 7-year-old?
Oh my goodness, it's hard to explain anything to a 7-year-old, let alone something of that nature. I mean, I think even as an adult, it's a little difficult to comprehend what the difference between a right and a privilege. I believe a right, to a 7-year-old, a right would be something that you as a human being you as a human being need in order to survive. So you have a right to to housing. You have a right to to be able to be provided food and nourishment. That should be intrinsically your right to be able to grow up a healthy individual. In addition to that, obviously there's rights with respects of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, things of that nature. So a right is something that intrinsically you don't necessarily have to. Again, this is very difficult for a 7-year-old because you have to. Whereas a privilege is a privilege that you can live without. So a privilege is a privilege for you to have a cell phone, for example. You don't necessarily need that to survive. It's not something that you would. And in the terms of a 7-year-old, I mean, you can literally live without a popsicle, but you can't live without water. Your right to, you can go up to a vendor and ask for water, and they should be able to give you that right to have some nourishment, some water. Whereas, a popsicle, I mean, it's something that you get for pleasure and entertainment. So again, it's a very difficult question. I would have to do a little bit of some deeper thought. But again, a right is something that intrinsically you should be given as a human being so that you can be a productive human being and be able to defend yourself and socially and academically be able to defend yourself and progress and get your voice heard. And then a privilege, again, is something that you can do without. It's just something above and beyond what you need in order to survive.
Okay.
I don't know if a 7-year-old will understand that, but you know, again, the mind of a 7-year-old is still. I don't even think as a 7-year, it'd be very few 7-year-olds that would actually contemplate that question. But
what about not speaking in legal terms, just basic human right and privilege, in a simple phrase?
You're right. A privilege is. So let me go. So a privilege is something that you can do without. A right is something that you intrinsically need to be a productive or a successful human being or a good little boy and girl or yeah.
Next, how would you, what are your suggestions for training programs and disciplinary action regarding law enforcement to diminish and in time extinguish the intimidation tactic?
So I think the biggest thing that we can do as a city and as a community is make sure that we, as a community, engage on an everyday basis with our police or our public safety groups. So, individuals are intimidated of things they don't necessarily know and they're not accustomed to. Mm-hmm. So, if there comes a sense of intimidation when, okay, I've never interacted with you. I've seen you from afar. I've heard these very generalized comments made about what you are and what you do. But I myself have never interacted with you. So that creates a divide between anybody, whether it be a student and a teacher, a student and a principal, a student and a parent, student and an adult. So I think the biggest thing that we as a community can do is make sure that our community, as well as our public safety officials, interact on an everyday basis with one another. And in doing so, they're going to break down that divide that we as a society have created between the both. Because, we have to understand that they're there to serve us. Mm-hmm. It's not a role, it shouldn't be a role of intimidation or a role that's uneven. They're there to serve us. So if we can make sure that they are, they involve in community activities, community, programming, I think that would in itself help make sure that we view them as something positive and something beneficial to the community, because that's what they are. They're there to serve us and to make sure that we as a community are safe and prosperous with respects to safety issues such as fire, EMT services, and things of that nature.
What about some of the examples that we see on perhaps on a daily basis, of the overuse of their authority?
Well, I personally have never encountered the overuse of the authority. I know there's been some situations recently within the newspaper, some cases that kind of have, addressed a possible overuse of the authority. But again, I think that's something that until we get the full scope, the full investigation of those issues, we can really gauge what really happened. But again, I think it's a matter of making sure that they themselves, public officers, understand that they're there to serve the community, and the community understand that they're also, it's a two-way stream. So the community also has to understand that they're there to serve them and not necessarily create a divide between both entities. Again, it's a very, very, it's a subject that at this point within the city of Oxnard, we're facing, and I do feel that Chief Williams is making sure that the police force and is in line with making sure that they understand their role as police officers and public safety officers. Again, that word public, everybody needs to understand that they're there to protect us, and we as a community need to embrace them as police officers and their role within our community. So,
do you feel that the community should have a say concerning the college programs and classes being cut?
So that the community should have a say?
Do you think that the community should have a say for the upcoming students, for the community colleges, and the adults who also want to go back to school? Should they have a say into the programs and the classes being cut or implemented?
Well, obviously, it's just, the community should have some sort of, the voices and the concerns of the community should be of utmost importance, because the community is the one that's, having to deal with those cuts, with those, limiting of money coming in. So yeah, obviously the community is the one being affected, and they should be heard with respects to what their needs are and what they want with the future of their own community to be. So if they want to make sure that education is at the forefront, then the resources to make that happen should be allocated to the community as much as it can.
Thank you. What are some issues that you will be prioritizing?
So some of the issues that I as a council member see myself prioritizing is making sure that, obviously that things are run in a very transparent and honest way. In any type of decision, whether it be a small decision or a big decision encompassing a lot of, funds. So making sure that in itself is very, very, things are run in an honest and transparent way. Another thing is, I really want to make sure that the city itself, the city needs, whether it be infrastructure needs, so streets, schools, park, open space, that in itself is maintained at a level and quality that the citizens feel is appropriate. So if the citizens feel that, the roads need to be without potholes and things of that nature, then we as a council need to make sure that we direct our funds to making sure that our city looks aesthetically pleasing. And not because we want to, and that'll serve to make sure that our citizens are happy with what their tax dollars are doing, and also it'll make other individuals outside of the city, whether they want to come and bring a business or, bring some sort of positive programming to the city, they'll want to come to the city of Oxnard. So that's another priority, making sure that the basic needs of the city are met. And then another one of my priorities is also making sure that, youth activities, senior citizen activities, more in general, community-based activities are also, there's funding for them, because it is very important that individuals have an avenue other than, violence or gang involvement, and then in doing so, we can make sure that we produce productive citizens in the future. So there has to be emphasis put on like cultural arts, things of that nature, so people can get engaged and spend their time doing things that are productive and that are eventually going to put them on the right path so that they can themselves come back to the community and be productive citizens of their own community of the city of Oxnard.
Next question: what can we realistically expect from you in your term in office?
Realistically, again, it's a 4-year term. People think it's a long time, but in a sense, there's projects that have, outlived city council members. So I think in the next 4 years, you can realistically expect for me to initiate and projects or initiatives that, again, try to pinpoint my 3 priorities. So whether it be, making sure city's infrastructure is well maintained and updated, and then also hopefully I can initiate some sort of additional programming within the recreational arts, community-based activities, and then also I think just making sure you can expect decisions that are well thought out and rationally made for the benefit of the community.
Last question: what are your suggestions for the younger generation who want to become involved in government?
My suggestion would be to make sure that they try, obviously, to just go for it. There's nothing to lose. It's an example with me. I was, they provided the opportunity and I took the plunge. And I think that out of having that courage and that initiative to go ahead and do that, I am here today. That, and I also want to make sure that young individuals have to know that education is very important. They have to become educated in order to do a good job in a position that requires you to think analytically and critically about the world around you. So it's not enough to be able to obviously you have to have the courage, but you also have to have the background knowledge and information to do a good job. So I think education is very important, and also having the courage to take that next step or go for that opportunity or so education and just doing it. You have to have the courage.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Padilla. I hope the best of luck in your term.
Oh, thank you I hope so too. It's been an exciting last few months, I have to say, but very interesting.
Thank you.